Leviton switch failures can stem from several causes. Firstly, over-torquing the terminal screws is a common culprit. Excessive tightening can damage the plastic housing or the internal contacts of the switch. Always ensure that you tighten the screws only to the manufacturer's recommended torque. Secondly, loose terminals can also contribute to switch failures. Loose connections lead to poor electrical contact, which can cause arcing and eventually result in the switch failing. Thirdly, although less common, defective components can also be a source of problems. In rare cases, switches may have manufacturing defects that lead to premature failure. Fourthly, using switches with an insufficient amperage rating for the load they are connected to can cause overheating and subsequent failure. Always ensure that the switch's amperage rating meets or exceeds the load requirement. Improper installation can also lead to switch failures. Always install switches according to the manufacturer's instructions and in compliance with all applicable local electrical codes. Underwriters Laboratories, or all, certification indicates that a product has been tested and meets specific safety standards. However, UL certification does not guarantee 100% reliability or prevent failures resulting from improper use or installation. Experiencing a 20% failure rate with Leviton switches is unusually high. If you consistently encounter such high failure rates, it is advisable to take the following steps. Firstly, carefully inspect the switches for any visible damage or defects before installation. Secondly, double-check that you are tightening the terminal screws to the correct torque specifications. Thirdly, verify that the switches are properly rated for the electrical load they will be handling. Fourthly, consider switching to a different brand or type of switch to see if the problem persists. Loose terminals present a significant safety hazard. If you discover a loose terminal after tightening the screw, take the following precautions. Firstly, immediately power off the circuit at the breaker. Secondly, carefully retighten the terminal screw to the proper torque. Thirdly, if the terminal remains loose even after retightening, replace the switch immediately to prevent potential hazards. Other important considerations include purchasing switches from reputable vendors to avoid counterfeit or substandard products. Avoid purchasing switches from questionable sources or online marketplaces that may not adhere to quality control standards. Always inspect switches thoroughly for any visible defects or damage before beginning the installation process. Keeping detailed records of switch installations, including the date and location, can be helpful for future troubleshooting and maintenance. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. Some additional details to consider regarding switch failures include the environment in which the switches are installed. For instance, switches installed in damp or corrosive environments may be more prone to failure. Additionally, the type of wiring used can also impact switch performance. For example, using undersized wiring can cause overheating and lead to switch failure. Another potential cause of switch failure is voltage fluctuations. If the voltage in your electrical system fluctuates significantly, it can damage switches and other electrical components. Regular maintenance and inspection of your electrical system can help to prevent switch failures. This includes checking for loose connections, damaged wiring, and other potential problems. When replacing a failed switch, be sure to use a replacement that is rated for the same voltage and amperage as the original. Using a switch with a lower rating can create a safety hazard. Also, consider using surge protectors to protect your switches and other electrical equipment from voltage spikes. Surge protectors can help to prevent damage caused by lightning strikes and other electrical disturbances. When working on electrical projects, always follow proper safety procedures. This includes turning off the power at the breaker, wearing appropriate safety gear, and using insulated tools. Remember that electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take precautions to protect yourself from injury. In addition to the above, it is also worth considering the type of switch being used. For example, some types of switches are more durable than others and may be better suited for certain applications. If you are experiencing frequent switch failures, it may be worth investing in higher quality switches. Another factor to consider is the frequency of use. Switches that are used frequently are more likely to fail than switches that are used less often. If you have a switch that is used frequently, it may be worth replacing it with a more durable model. Also, be aware of the potential for electromagnetic interference or EMI. EMI can disrupt the operation of electronic devices, including switches. If you suspect that EMI is causing your switches to fail, you may need to take steps to reduce the interference. When troubleshooting switch failures, it can be helpful to use a multimeter to test the switch for continuity. A multimeter can help you determine whether the switch is working properly and identify any potential problems. Furthermore, always refer to the manufacturer's specifications and guidelines when installing and troubleshooting switches. The manufacturer's documentation can provide valuable information about the switch's operation and potential issues. Remember that electrical codes and regulations vary from location to location. Be sure to comply with all applicable codes and regulations when working on electrical projects. If you are unsure about any aspect of electrical work, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. An electrician can help you diagnose and repair electrical problems safely and effectively. Finally, document all electrical work that you perform. This documentation can be helpful for future troubleshooting and maintenance. Keep records of the date, location, and type of work performed, as well as any materials used. By following these guidelines, you can help to prevent switch failures and ensure the safety of your electrical system. Firstly, ensure the switch is appropriate for the application. Secondly, use proper installation techniques. Thirdly, regularly inspect and maintain your electrical system. Fourthly, consult with a qualified electrician when needed. Over-tightening the terminal screw is the most common cause of failure, and one thing that can be done to avoid it. Fifthly, always refer to the manufacturer's specifications and guidelines when installing and troubleshooting switches. The manufacturer's documentation can provide valuable information about the switch's operation and potential issues. Sixthly, remember that electrical codes and regulations vary from location to location. Be sure to comply with all applicable codes and regulations when working on electrical projects. Seventhly, if you are unsure about any aspect of electrical work, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. An electrician can help you diagnose and repair electrical problems safely and effectively. Eighthly, document all electrical work that you perform. This documentation can be helpful for future troubleshooting and maintenance. Keep records of the date, location, and type of work performed, as well as any materials used. Ninthly, purchase from a reputable vendor or online marketplaces. Tenthly, avoid questionable sources that may not adhere to quality control standards.